Now, tell us about the origins of the MOBO Awards themselves. Was that a flash of inspiration, or where did the idea come from, and what did you do when you had this great idea?
I mean, ever since I can remember, I've wanted to do something like this. I mean, I've always been surrounded by musicians who really never had anywhere to perform or showcase their music. I mean, music of black origin in its various guises continues to provide the major record labels with a high percentage of their annual turnover. But yet, until the awards started, there was no platform for where these artists could perform. So I thought, having talked about it for many years, I've got to do something about it. So I put my money where my mouth was, and I remortgaged my house. I didn't tell my mother, of course. And neither did I tell my bank manager what it was for. But however, I took a risk, and it's funny when I think back now, because, you know, we set up our company. It was called MOBO Organisation, and I started from my bedroom. And, you know, I can recall the time very vividly. I mean, I'd be there sitting in my PJs, and there'd be my undies and clothes everywhere, and the phone would ring, and I would say MOBO Organisation. And, of course, it was completely disorganised. And I think I was that embodiment of, have you ever heard the expression, fake it until you make it? Yeah. Well, I was very much doing that. But, of course, I mean, you know, of course, it worked for me, you know, it worked for me in those days because I didn't have the money to afford offices. But, of course, I moved out as soon as I could.
Give us a sense of the scale of it now. I mean, the MOBO organisation and the awards. Give us some of the numbers and the scope of it.
I mean, we are the first ever music awards ceremony to be broadcast on BBC One, and we go out to over 250 million people worldwide. And we were the first to help make the transition from urban music to the mainstream status that it has today, and really bring it to the masses. And also, I think we've become a voice for a large section of the community that in some ways feels disenfranchised. Mm. So we become spokespeople for the government, for media agencies, any time when they want someone to really sometimes challenge some of the stereotypes that there are out there about this type of music.
What have the MOBO Awards changed in our ways of thinking about music and about, you know, all the other issues that you bring into the awards?
I mean, we very much were setting the stage. I mean, I don't know if any of you know of MTV Base or Radio 1 Extra or Channel U. In 1996, none of these were in existence beforehand. And I think most people will wholeheartedly agree that most forms of popular music had their origins in black heritage. And we wanted to celebrate that and commemorate that fact and provide a sense of achievement, which was very much needed. And so I think, I mean, of course, all the artists who perform on this show, most of them go on to have phenomenal record sales off the back of it. But we now become more than music. And I think that's also important to us, our kind of social and cultural responsibility that we have today.
Have you been, I was thinking about what you've learned about being successful in business during that time, because it sounded as if you started kind of almost accidentally, and it grew and grew and grew, and it wasn't as if you'd had a big plan and you'd worked to that. It grew and grew. What have you learned about, and this is something, you know, talking directly to people in the audience who maybe have got an idea for a business and want to make it happen. What have you learned about what it takes to be successful in business?
Well, what I've learned, to be successful, you need passion, and of course you need also passion and more passion, because, you know, passion is what gets you to work throughout the night when you've got a deadline to meet. When you have a setback, because you'll have many, you're able to, you know, turn adversity around. You know, any setback you can overcome, not only the first setback, but the second setback and the third setback, because you are going to have obstacles in your way. And I think it's important when you're starting your own business to recognise that, you know, if you do something what you believe in and you're very passionate about it, you're more likely to overcome it. Because I found that, you know, throughout, I suppose, starting my business and the many years that I've been involved in setting this up, I've had to, you know, change my kind of work balance. and I've also made many, many sacrifices. And I think it's important to recognise that, you know, you need perseverance, determination, but also equally important, you've got to have a vision of what you want to do and what you want to achieve.
Right. I mean, there's so many things it could be, but is there anything that any achievements that you're particularly proud of, and through the MOBO Awards?
And yeah, there are so many moments. I think when we first set up the awards, and I was campaigning for, you know, many, many years in order to get a huge conglomerate or a TV company to take us seriously and give us airtime. And so, you know, when we went to see Carlton Television, and they said to us, well, we've got good news and bad news for you. Well, you know, the good news is that you've got a slot, you know, a TV slot. The bad news is you've got 6 weeks to put on this event, and we've got no budget. And that's, you know, I'm sure many people have heard that before. So, of course, we didn't sleep throughout that period, and we only had a small team. So really putting on the first show was a kind of a huge, you know, achievement for me. But equally, I remember I went back, having left, I suppose, school at 15 without no education. I decided to go to Goldsmith University, but I got kicked out. And the reason
this
being...
is one of your proudest achievements.
I'm very proud. I'm very proud of this because I wasn't attending enough lectures because I was a parent at the time, and so I had to juggle paying my mortgage and, you know, obviously, you know, paying bills. And whilst my peers were getting drunk in the halls and getting up to mischief, unfortunately, I couldn't afford that luxury. But what made me proud was many years ago, I was fortunate enough to be bestowed a fellowship from Goldsmith University. So that was quite funny. So I said to them, do you remember the time that you kicked me up? And they said, oh, don't worry about that. You're in good company. We've done that with Mary Quant, and many other people have gone on to successful careers. So I thought, hey, good company.
Excellent, excellent. Tomorrow, as we said, is International Women's Day. Yeah. What about your experiences as a woman in the music industry? Because from the outside, the music industry looks as if, you know, it's got its fair share of women right at the very top, but I suspect that your experiences are
somewhat different.
Somewhat different, yeah.
Yes, there is no doubt that there is barriers to entry in the music industry, surprisingly, for women and people of colour. They have just done a survey recently, and they found out the BME sector, the Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic sector, in the music industry was poorly represented. And it was the lowest in the creative industry. So it's gone down since 1996 by over a third. So clearly there are barriers to entry in terms of job employment. So that's a surprise when you think about the artists that are out there and the styles of music. But clearly in terms of, you know, managerial level, whatever, there's not representation. But the way I see it, there's obviously advantages and disadvantages to being a woman in business, because, you know, the disadvantages are you might not be taken seriously, but, you know, and that your capabilities might be questioned. But on the positive side, I mean, every board meeting I've attended, no one's ever forgotten my name. They always remember me, and I see that as a positive. And I also see that there's gaps to be filled, and, you know, hey, I want to be one of those people to fill them.
And finally, where are you taking the MOBO organisation? What are your hopes for the future, and what do you think you've still got to achieve?
You know what, we haven't scratched the surface. There's so much we want to do. We spent the last 10 years building a strong kind of branding policy that will ultimately facilitate expansion into other business-related areas. And equally, in addition to that, we want to increase awareness for artists who perform within these genres, but also continue to recognise the impact that this music has made on popular culture. I mean, if you look at the figures, there are nearly 7 million 16 to 30-year-olds out there, and 70% of them listen to urban music.
Well, for now, it's a fantastic story, and Kanya, thank you so much for coming and telling us about it.